Okay. Um, so this year we've got our conference win. Um, Today we're going to talk about how we go from that conference victory to getting a commitment in the Labour Manifesto. And we're going to talk about the process that we're going to be going through, that the whole party is going to be going through, and how we plan to basically interact with that and influence it. Just taking a quick step back, the objectives of our campaign, Labour for a New Democracy, are really threefold. Firstly, we wanted to get a conference vote in favour of PR before the next general election. Secondly, we need to actually get the Labour Manifesto to commit to electoral reform. And thirdly, we need the next Labour government to actually implement it. Now, the good news is we've already achieved the first one, so that's something to be happy about. The next area we're focusing on, or the area we're definitely focusing on this evening, in any case, is getting that manifesto commitment. That's kind of where this all fits within the broader scheme of things. Just in terms, our campaign is really unique in that it started from the Labour membership. Electoral reform in the past has mainly been approached as sort of trying to lobby MPs and so on, and that's still an important aspect of it. But what really kind of blew the doors off the whole thing was just getting that huge members mobilisation in 2021 towards Labour conference, getting that huge members vote in favour of PR on the conference floor. And that's what allowed us to have the debate among the unions over the last year between the 2021 and 2022 conferences. And the next phase, we think, from this kind of strategic level, is really going to be led by the members as well. It's kind of our strongest suit in this, where we can really build up a lot of pressure. And I mean, we're also going to be doing obviously work with other stakeholders. We've got a lot of work to do, making sure trade unions are on side. But the kind of cutting edge of this campaign is going to now be the members as we move towards that manifesto commitment. So let's talk about the process. This is the sort of ordinary business as usual process for setting out the manifesto, which hasn't happened in quite some time, because obviously if you have a snap general election, then the timescales I'm talking about are just completely compressed. You don't have all the consultation phase and so on. So that's happened for the last two general elections. But under normal circumstances, this is broadly how it works. We have a national policy forum in the Labour Party, which brings together a couple of hundred representatives of people at all levels of the party: CLPs, trade unions, PLP, local councillors, things like that. It used to have 8 policy commissions. It's now got 6 policy commissions, which cover basically all of the policy areas that you could have to worry about. The one we're concerned with most is safe and secure communities. And the reason for that is, among many other things, crime and policing, justice, so on. It contains constitutional reform as one of its responsibilities. Now, the Policy Commission, the Safe and Secure Communities Policy Commission, is itself made up of lots of representatives of different parts of the party. It runs consultations, as all of the commissions do, and it sort of deliberates and draws up policy documents. And in this particular year, because we're working towards a manifesto in this particular year, it's of particular importance. So here's basically the time frame. In January, the National Policy Forum commissions will all publish their consultation documents. And CLPs, branches, other organisations will be able to respond to those. Now, interestingly, whereas in the past, individuals have been able to respond to MPF consultations, we understand it's going to be units only on this occasion, so branches at a minimum, CLPs, and other organisations. The deadline for that consultation is March. I think someone's got a bit of background noise coming through. Sam, maybe you could track them down and mute them. So the consultation closed in March. In April, the policy documents will be sort of updated based on those consultations and circulated to all the members and affiliates in the party. And at that point, the individual representatives who are part of the commission will be able to submit amendments saying what they think should change about those documents. That deadline is itself in May, and at that point the party's going to basically decide how to handle all of those proposed amendments, whether to accept them or how else it would recommend dealing with them, and draw up a proper draft policy platform, which will be a pretty comprehensive overview of policies. And then in July there'll be a final stage National Policy Forum meeting, which will agree the whole final policy platform. And then finally in October, conference will ratify that. It'll vote to adopt the whole document. And if it's passed, then that document goes to the Clause 5 meeting. And what do I mean by Clause 5 meeting? That is the meeting that is called after a general election is actually called and is about to take place. And it's the final meeting where the party formally decides a manifesto, and then a few days later we'll launch it to the public. But that Clause 5 meeting could be, quite a long time after all of this prior process happens, and not a whole lot is expected to change at or close to the Clause 5 meeting. So a lot of this kind of earlier next 6 months or so is really key because of that. Okay, so that's a party's timeline. This is basically our campaign timeline for how we're going to engage with those things, and we've split it up into 4 separate phases here. So phase 1 is from basically now until that consultation closes, and what we want to do is mobilize demand branches we possibly can. Phase 2 is from March until May, and what we want to do is actually lobby the members of the National Policy Forum and the Safe and Secure Communities Commission. And then we've got phase 3, which is basically between the end of that period and the final stage meeting, which we'll need to prepare for, and then a 4th stage preparing for the conference. We're going to talk a little bit more about phase 1 and 2 today, partly because they're the most pressing ones, they're the soonest, and partly because kind of the nature of phase 3 and 4 will sort of depend on how phase 1 and 2 goes. So we'll see a bit more about them later. Anyway, phase 1, what we'd like everyone to do before Christmas, and we'll email you to prompt you about this, is basically make sure that your branch and your CLP are going to be able to find time to discuss the consultation in January or February. As I say, it's going to be published in January. The deadline for responses is March, so you really need to be discussing it in February at latest to be sure you're going to hit that deadline. So just write to your CLP and branch secretary, say NPF consultation's coming, and we'll need to find time to discuss it. From January, we're going to be asking you to basically propose a response to your branch and CLP, to have them vote for it, kind of like you would a motion, and then submit it as evidence. We're going to provide templates for that, but also it's really going to help if they're actually personalized and if they're localized. So we're also going to run some workshops. If it's helpful for you, then you can come along and we can help you draft a sort of personalized response to that. But we should all be making the same core asks about what we want the documents to include, basically. And I mean, the thing underlying all of this is we really want to mobilize in the same way that we did for conference last year and conference the year before around this consultation process. I think we really sort of reached quite a new peak of what can be done in terms of conference organizing in the Labour Party. And now I think what we want to do is shift all of that organizing towards this consultation. And I think doing that level of engagement with a manifesto process is really quite unprecedented. It's one of the strongest kind of cards we have to play. Okay, just quickly, phase 2 is going to be lobbying regional NPF representatives. We're aiming to get them to push for pro-PR policy to be in the manifesto. And as I mentioned, they'll have opportunities to table amendments if that's necessary. So we'll be looking for lots of people willing to do that. From March, we'll be asking you to sign up, basically to meet with your regional rep. We're going to take a slightly centralized approach to this because lots of the MPF representatives are just normal party members. We don't want to flood their inbox with thousands of messages saying, will you commit to this? Because that's just going to give them a headache. What we really want to do is get really big meetings, which lots of you guys and pro-electoral reform members can come along to and lobby them. So we'll kind of get your in principle sign up to a meeting. We'll try and arrange for that meeting to happen with the MPF representatives, and then we'll get as many people along as possible to lobby reps in their own regions. Now, this is all, all of this manifesto and, mobilizing CLP stuff is alongside other areas where, obviously working with the trade unions really closely. Caroline's leading on that. Laura's going to be working with stakeholders all the way across the party, particularly later in the process. NEC and Shadow Cabinet and others become really, really key. Aside from that, there's also the work with the Parliamentary Labour Party and tomorrow's Parliamentary Labour Party in the form of PPCs. But we think the best place that any pro-PR member can focus their attention at the moment is basically this manifesto process. We're going to be holding a launch of the 2023 campaign on the 10th of January, where we'll have a lot more information about the early stage of that whole process. So do come along to that, put in your diary. But in the meantime, if you do one thing before Christmas, then I would suggest writing to your secretary, just telling them the consultation from the MPF is coming and that this will be the one that basically sets the manifesto, and then making sure that you're going to have time to discuss that.